The vultures. They're here already. Oh, shh.
Poor Mrs. Bennet. I just heard the news. It's too dreadful.
Oh.
Ah, Mrs. Bennet. Yours is a misfortune which no lapse of time can alleviate. No lapse of time, Mrs. Phillips. The death of your daughter would have been a blessing compared to this.
Mr. Collins.
What is it, my dear?
Poor Mrs. Bennet. You're distressing her.
Distressing her? I'm bringing her consolation. Oh. May I add, madam, that this false step of one of your daughters must prove very injurious to the fortunes of all the others.
Oh, he's right. They'll never get married now. What's to become of them?
I shudder to think what Lady Catherine will say to all this.
Ma ti vuoi convincere che siamo sulla bocca di tutti, che dovremmo sprangare porte e finestre per non farci sommergere dalla maldicenza? Te lo vuoi convincere?
Ma perché? Cosa possono dire di noi? Dopotutto qualunque donna può perdere la testa per amore.
Si capisce. E con queste tue teorie, che la nostra è diventata una famiglia senza decoro, senza dignità, una famiglia alla quale si fanno le condoglianze. Guarda, come il cugino Collins, il quale si è affrettato a farci pervenire la sua commiserazione. Ascolta se vuoi avere un'idea di quello che si dice di noi. Comunque stiano le cose, il caro cugino merita profonda compassione. Anche Lady Catherine de Bourgh concorda con me nel ritenere che questo passo falso di una delle sue figlie avrà serie conseguenze su tutte le altre. Chi infatti vorrà imparentarsi con una famiglia simile?
Tanto per l'amor del cielo, Jenny!
Con che soddisfazione lo dice Sfido. Spera che io muoia presto di crepacuore, così scade il termine per la casa.
Che termine, mamma?
Sta zitta, cretina!
Sì, ha ragione tua madre. Questa volta.
Ma papà,
zitta!
Ma io...
Silenzio, e non più ufficiale qui dentro. Basta balli, basta visite a Sia Gardener. Via, subito.
Ma papà, che c'entro io?
Via, a letto, fila! Oh! Visto come si fa?
Sì, ma esageri adesso.
Here is a letter which has just arrived, addressed to my father. Or perhaps it contains something to cheer us.
Open it, I pray. It may concern us all.
It is from Mr. Collins.
And sit down and read it, niece.
My dear sir, I feel myself called upon to condole with you on the grievous affliction you are now suffering under. The death of your daughter would have been a blessing in comparison with this.
How dare he? My little Lydia's an angel.
For who, as Lady Catherine de Bourgh herself condescendingly says, will connect themselves with such a family?
There. And this consideration leads me, moreover, to reflect with augmented satisfaction on a certain event when I visited Longbourn.
What?
For had it been otherwise, I must have been involved in your sorrow and disgrace.
Let me advise you then, my dear sir, to throw off your unworthy child from your affection forever and leave her to reap the fruits of her own heinous offence. This is the man who is to turn us all out of Longbourn.
And he a clergyman, too. I like his notion of Christian forgiveness.
Whichever way I look, I can see nothing but humiliation and disgrace. Oh, thoughtless Lydia.
It is from Mr. Bennet. He is killed. It is from Mr. Collins, too, Mr. Bennet. And since we have been authorised to open all that comes to him in his absence, we have accordingly read it.
Oh, Mr. Collins, too.
So it appears, Mother. Feels himself called on by our relationship and his situation in life to condole us on our grievous affliction. He refers to us as respectable, for which I suppose we must be grateful. This is what he says.
The death of your daughter would have been a blessing in comparison to this. Howsoever that may be, you are grievously to be pitied, in which opinion I am joined not only by Mrs. Collins, but likewise by Lady Catherine and her daughter, to whom I have related the affair. and this leads me to reflect with augmented consideration on a certain event of last November. For, had it been otherwise, I must have been involved in all your sorrow and disgrace. Let me advise you then, my dear sir, to throw off your unworthy child from your affection forever, and leave her to reap the fruits of her own heinous offence.
Look who's coming!
Who is it, Kitty?
Mr. Collins, of course. Well, I'm not going to sit with him for anyone.
I had hoped to condole with your poor father and your mother.
Our father is still in London, sir, and our mother is not yet well enough to leave her room.
I feel myself called on, not only by our relationship, but by my situation as a clergyman, to condole with you all on the grievous affliction you are now suffering under.
Thank you, sir. It has often been said that a friend in need is a friend indeed, sir.
Yes. Be assured, ladies, that Mrs. Collins and myself sincerely sympathize with you in your present distress, which must be of the bitterest kind, proceeding from a cause which no time can remove. The death of your sister would have been a blessing in comparison. And it is more to be lamented, because there is reason to suppose, my dear Charlotte informs me, that this licentiousness of behavior in your sister has proceeded from a faulty degree of indulgence, though I am inclined to think that her disposition must be naturally bad. Now, howsoever that may be, you are grievously to be pitied.
We are very grateful, sir, for your...
In which opinion I am joined by Lady Catherine de Bourgh and her daughter, to whom I have related the affair in full. They agree with me in apprehending that this false step in one sister must be injurious to the fortunes of all the others. For who, as Lady Catherine herself condescendingly says, will connect themselves with such a family?
Who indeed, sir? Now, perhaps, in view of that consideration, you may feel that it would be unwise for you to stay any longer now.
Well, perhaps you are right. Yes, perhaps you are right, Cousin Elizabeth.
I always feel that a clergyman cannot be too careful, especially one so fortunate as to enjoy the condescension and the patronage of Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
Your thoughtfulness does you credit, Cousin Elizabeth. I am very, very sorry for you all.
Insufferable man.
I suppose he means well.
You suppose wrongly, Jane. His purpose in coming was to enjoy our misfortunes and congratulate himself on his own happy situation. I think it very kind of him to visit and condole with us.
Is he gone?
Yes.
Good.
And forever with any luck.